But to take this discussion forward, then we now have Jyoti Gupta, research analyst at Nirmal Institutional Equities, joining us. Good afternoon to you, Jyoti. This is Vamakshi. Jyoti, I'd first like to get your perspective on how much is actually priced into all of these defense counters. Of course, we have a slew of orders coming their way, and we also have rising geopolitical tension. So how much of it is baked into the price?
Okay, thank you so much for having me on the show. So most of the defense companies are trading at elevated valuations, reflecting high investor expectations despite, the execution levels that we're expecting. Now, however, Bell and HAL and BEML are ones which I still feel they offer attractive risk-adjusted upside. And typically, our approach has remained conservative, factoring in padding for execution or order delays. So current valuations appear reasonable, but for the long term, especially versus peers with higher multiples and operational risk.
Understood. Jyoti, that really is quite helpful. What I want to understand from you, Jyoti, is when it comes to a specific space within the defense, where do you see the most ordering momentum? So where is it that you're therefore most bullish on? Is it the drone system, or is it some of the homegrown players where you expect to see elevated ordering activity?
I would say I am optimistic on the entire defense sector because underpinned by strong policy momentum and heightened strategic urgency. In fact, the government's increased focus on emergency procurement, which I think is in somewhere in the range of 30 to 35,000 crores, and it is across all the sectors, all three divisions. So, and that is particularly in the light of geopolitical dynamics, and this has led to accelerated order placements and concerted push towards fast execution timelines. Now, everybody's been talking about, emergency procurement post-Sindoor. As far as my understanding goes, I think procurement orders were already given before that because the companies were already working 2.5 shifts, in fact, 3 shifts. So I think this shift only, supports the robust near-term growth visibility and also enhances cash flow and order book strength for key defense OEMs.
Well, Jyoti, I'd like to ask you about the export opportunity for Indian players, because there's a NATO summit that is scheduled tomorrow, and the allies are expected to increase the defense spending to 5% of GDP from the current 2% of GDP. So now, of course, we do know that the Indian players directly are not eligible to build for that. But what about the second order effect from some of the OEMs that are based out of there?
So, we believe there's a huge TAM for drones and UAVs, and it remains largely vast and untapped with strong potential across tactical and strategic applications. Now, whatever spending happens, Indian market would be the net beneficiaries. And while you say not in the, I think overall basis we will benefit, whether in the first or the second category doesn't matter. And, as modern combat shift towards greater reliance on autonomous surveillance, real-time intelligence, and precision targeting, I think the demand for UAV and is set to grow. And the defense manufacturers, in fact, you will see that the defense manufacturers are also increasing their capabilities in areas such as loitering munitions, vertical takeoff and landing, drones, swarm systems, counter-drone technologies, jamming. So, and this is, of course, supported by the government budgetary support, where the government is saying that we'll take the exports order to something like 50,000 crores. So, so I think overall, Indian market, and also with Operation Sindhu, the kind of confidence that we have built up in terms of our capabilities, I think we'll be the net beneficiaries going forward.
Jyoti, one last quick question. Number one, give us an approximate sense of the TAM as far as drones as well as UAVs are concerned. And secondly, give us your top picks both in the large cap space and some interesting names in the small and mid cap space. Some of the companies that are doing interesting work, especially as far as exports are concerned.
So I wouldn't really have the exact TAM. In fact, I won't even have a ballpark figure, because the TAM that you expect is going to be for the next 5 years. That could increase substantially with the 5% spending that you're seeing. So difficult as of now to give you a number. I do think that there's some companies which are doing very well. One, of course, if you look at the listed space, and the ones that I'm tracking is HAL and BEML, because they still continue to offer some upside because of the delay in execution. While on the other side, I see small companies like Unimec, you could see again. You have Sign DLM, you have Idea 4,
Sure.
which will be getting it. Some companies are doing extremely well in
Sure.
unlisted space as well. You could look at WEM Technologies.
All right.
There are MKU.
All right.
So there are a lot of companies who are doing, and they're getting
Yes.
very big orders in terms of defense as well.
Sure, sure. Thank you so much, Jyoti, for joining in with us this very afternoon. But